How's it going, super friends? Welcome back to my channel. For those of you who may be new here, I'm Brad, the DC Universe Geek, and today I'm plastered all over the Mezco 1/12 Collective Mutant Leader's forehead. It's, well, the sleeve of the box. It's very shiny, so I guess I'm kind of in the intro. This is an older figure, so I'm going to be doing this one a little bit more simply than something that would be a new release or a much older classic release. And I'm doing this one today on my cell phone just to give it a little bit of a different look. So here we go. As you can see, the front of the box has my face on it, and the Mutant Leader's face on it. It says Mutant Leader. You got the Batman Dark Knight Returns logo right there in the corner. Here's what the top of the sleeve looks like. And here is what the rear sleeve looks like. Some images of the figures, little boxes depicting some of the accessories and extra heads and all that kind of good stuff. And here is what it looks like when you take it off. You got just the basic rubble dumpish look with the red sky. And on this side, we've got Dark Knight Returns, and on this side we had, again, Batman Dark Knight Returns. So that's pretty much it for the packaging. Now, having taken everything out of the box, I just wanted to show you the artwork just on this inside flap here. This is very cool. You can tell that he's in Batman's sights. So out of the box you get the figure, you get this here torch, a crowbar accessory, 2 interchangeable heads, 2 alternate hands to go on the body, and this here figure stand with an arm attachment. The design is actually meant to look just like the front of the package with the Mutant Leader's head. Not a bad spread, very simple in comparison to a lot of the accessories that we've seen come with subsequent Mezco 1/12 Collective figures. Just having 2 extra hands in comparison to how many we've gotten in the past is certainly a fairly large difference. But that was the case with older school Mezco figures. They tended to come, I think, with less accessories. Now, the figure itself looks very, very cool. I'm glad I got this guy. The reason why I picked him up, you'll see later in the video when I do my action figure photography, is I picked him up to take pictures alongside my Mafex Dark Knight Batman figures. Lord knows it's not to go with this guy. He's in the middle of being customized. Now, close up, the torso for this figure looks really fantastic. Ooh, look at all those nipples. It looks very cold outside. The skin tone looks okay, and you've got shading inside of the muscles there. He looks very, very buff. The studs on his wrists and also on his ankles, the spikes that are essentially in his body. He's not wearing spiked bracelets. You've got his belt there and the leather pants that he's wearing. I love how gnarled and yucky his feet look. Like, this guy definitely has some kind of foot fungus going on down there. And the face sculpt looks pretty good as well for what it is. I like the fact that you can actually kind of see through that there visor. That is a nice little touch there. It could be painted a little bit better though. The orange looks a little bit sloppy. He also looks like he needs to brush his teeth. But it does look nice in general. There's the cue ball back of his head, and it's going to look the same all the way around the other side. Now if we just pop off that head and pop on the other one, this one is without spikes in the top of his head, and clearly he looks a lot more angry and upset. His visor has been painted a little bit neater though, and we get a look inside of his mouth, and again we see that he probably has very terrible oral hygiene. And here is the Mutant Leader after the unfortunate events that led to him missing his nose. The term "got your nose" takes on a whole new meaning for this guy. Now, aside from the fact that he's got these closed fist face pulverizing hands that come on the body, but he also comes with that grabby hand for holding on to, well, the torch for one, which looks really nice. I like the look of that fire traveling through the opaque orangish yellow plastic. And also the crowbar, which for a pry bar, it looks really, really, again, weathered and metally. Who knows whose business this has been prying into. And then he has the other interchangeable hand, the open-fingered hand, for, I don't know, whatever you do with an open hand. Squeezing cantaloupes in the grocery store, picking your nose, whatever you would do with an open hand. Now, as for how well this guy is articulated, let's find out together, shall we? So, of course, you've got torso articulation. Oh, that's smooth. That is a smooth articulation. I really, really like this a lot. And he's got waist articulation. Inside of his waist there, you can see that one thing that I'm not super keen on with this figure is how narrow his waist is in comparison to his body and the belt there. But It does have a pretty okay range of motion, I suppose, when you combine it with the torso by itself. It goes around and back and forth, not a super large amount. The head sculpts, this guy, they're all, as you know, they're all in that ball peg, and they can look how well up and down. That's all right. Not great, but it's certainly okay. And then for his arms, you can see that there's a little hinge right there in the armpit. And he also does have what you would consider a butterfly. It really doesn't do all that much. It's not super useful. It's better than nothing, but I wouldn't say it's a really great articulation point. Then he's got the bicep swivel. He's got the, those are kind of sharp. He's got the double jointed elbows, and they crunch up good enough for me, no complaints. And then you've got the wrist, which is on that rounded hinge. So it's an okay amount of articulation compared to what you would find now. Like when Mapleridge eventually throws their hat in and makes this guy, I'm sure he will definitely be more articulated than this one. But this guy just looks so great. He's going to look fantastic on my shelf. Then down here, because we've done the torso, we've got the groin. Obviously, we know they have the ball jointed groin. I'm not going to stretch it too much. I don't want to wreck his trousers, his pants. Then you've got some rotaty thigh cut style action. He's got double jointed knee. Oh man, I keep poking myself on the Sharpie bits. Let's try it again. So they crunch up. That's a nice amount of crunching. And then you can see right here, there also is a piece of, ouch. I don't even want to twist that. Do I want to twist that? Is that actually articulation? Okay, I'm going to try it. No, if it is, I'm not hurting myself doing it. These are a lot pointier on the tips of your fingers than they look. I actually don't think that they're an articulation point though. And then you've got this really, I like this. This is a smooth piece of ankle articulation here. I like this a lot. So there we have it. He's certainly got more articulation than the Mattel version, that is for sure. But this is, an under $20 figure, and this is a much more expensive figure. And while we've got them here together, that is the comparison between the two. And then we have the super top heavy DC collectibles. And then we have the skipped leg day DC collectibles. And then we have the DC collectibles. Oh my god, I hope he balances for the duration of the time I have in front of the camera version. This one's based off his appearance on the Batman cartoon show from way back in the day. He came as part of a 3-pack. As you can see, he's huge. And he's certainly a very different interpretation of the character. Yes, he's got nipples and they're supposed to be there. Better to have nipples than none at all. And now the only other comparison I'm going to do with this guy is with the Mapleridge Dark Knight Triumphant Batman. Because this is actually why I wanted the Mutant Leader, to have him pose alongside this Batman. Now that I've got them together, I feel like he might be just a little bit too small in comparison to this Batman. I mean, he'll work with action figure photography, but now I'm really hoping that Mapleridge makes a Mutant Leader to come alongside this Batman figure. Alright, so I just wanted to jump in here before the end of the movie and talk about something that will affect my overall review of this figure. I've been posing him around for the photography here, and I want to point out that we're seeing some fairly serious flaking of the pleather here. Do you see how it's coming separate from the fabric? Oh, it gets better than that, or should I say worse. Right down here at the bottom of his pants, it's beginning to flake, and then the real doozy is actually back here. This really does not look good. This is very bad. Also, down here, it's just flaked. It's flaked right off at the back of his pants here. And that is literally from me just putting this figure into one pose where I put his legs up like this and I posed him up like that, and that's it. That's all I did. Nothing else. And it's already started to flake away at the pleather. Now, whether that's because this is from 2006 and it's considered kind of old now, which that still should not be the case. You should be able to move the synthetic, the fake leather of these pants around and pose them around without it coming apart. So maybe, I don't know why it's doing it. I would say it's cheap materials. So that's going to be something I have to take into account while doing my final thoughts on this figure. That kind of stinks. So now, having unboxed the figure with all of its accessories, and having had a look at the good, the bad, and the flaky, what do I think about the Mezco 1/12 Collective Mutant Leader? Well, it's kind of a mixed bag now. I went into this review very, very happy with what I was seeing, and I made it almost the whole way through until I got to the part where I take a few pictures for the end of the video, where I began to notice that flaking of the pants. That's going to be some serious marks off. If you're going to buy this figure for action figure photography, just know that that's going to be something you will likely encounter. Some people may say that it actually makes the figure look better, more authentic, because his pants are getting kind of torn up and flaky, and I think that there's some merit to that thought, but that's not the point. The point is, when you buy a brand new collectible, you shouldn't have to worry about it beginning to deteriorate the moment you take it out of the box and begin to do any kind of posing or movement of that figure whatsoever. The figure and all of its accessories and all of its clothing should remain intact and solid for the duration of its existence, at least until the materials begin to deteriorate with age. But this is not an old figure. This is a new figure. 2016 does not classify as old. That's still pretty new. So I gotta say that it looks the part. It's definitely more posable than any iteration of this character we've had in the past, and is going to look better on my shelf than any other mutant leader that's been made to date. And so for that reason, I would probably still buy it. Although at this point, I would think that, honestly, $60 would be more of a realistic price for this, rather than the suggested retail price that these things went for of around $100. Now, if you want them, you're usually going to have to fork out around $130. This figure is not a $130 figure. It's not even a $100 figure. This figure right here, new in box, as far as I'm concerned, you should be paying $60 or even just $50 for it, because the pants issue is, well, it's a real big issue. It beats the pants off this figure. So I can't say whether or not you should buy this figure one way or the other. I will say, proceed with caution. That's what I'll say if you do decide, based on this review, that you want to pick this guy up. Anyway, that's my story and I'm sticking to it. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, found it an insightful and useful waste of time for the afternoon, and if you did, you know where all the buttons are that do all this stuff, and I will see you with the next one. Have a DC day, everybody, and take care.